Phillips. I'm the Commercial Director at Pacific Magazines. We've just been lucky enough to hear from some of the most talented editorial people in Australian media today, which was a fantastic session. I'm about to introduce you guys now to some of our immensely talented advertising and creative people, and they're going to talk to you about their roles today, how they've changed and how they can work better with you guys. So just to do a quick introduction to some of the people from the Pacific Brand Solutions team. And you'll notice I called them Brand Solutions, not ad sales. And I think we'll find out why soon. So Chris Matthews, who's the Deputy National Business Integration Manager on Men's Health. Joe Jenkinson, who's Social Media Manager at Pacific. Kate McAlpine, who's Agency Sales Manager across MEC and Mindshare. Christy Nguyen, Agency Sales Coordinator, and Anne-Marie Cheney, married a week ago, forgive me, who's Group Sales Director across our fashion titles, so Marie Claire and InStyle. I thought I'd start with a really simple one, guys. I want to know what a typical day looks like for you. I mean, Anne-Marie, for example, you're across Marie Claire and InStyle, as we talked about. What's a typical day for you look like today?
Well, I think there's no typical day anymore in magazines, and I don't think we really even think of ourselves as just a magazine anymore, which probably has led to us not having a typical day. So, you know, as Jackie was saying before, my typical day could be having a brainstorm with Jackie and the editorial and marketing team on a brief that's kind of come through agency sales or from our prestige clients who we work with. Last night we attended an espresso event because that's one of our big partners at Pacific Magazine. So every day is different, and I think that's what I love about the job and what has kept me with Pacific Magazines in particular, because it's just changing all the time. So there is no typical day, and I can look at my diary on a Monday and think, oh, I've got a fairly okay week. It's, you know, I've got a couple of things on, I've got a few, you know, big briefs, but I'll be okay. And then like Jackie will call me and she'll be like, we're doing this campaign next week, I need you down here, let's get it going, it has to be in market, it has to be on social tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So then you kind of have to leave what you're doing and then go and sort of head in that direction. But I think that's really challenging and really fun, and what's definitely kept me in this industry.
And I think as well that you know, we're now wearing so many different hats throughout the day. We're really collaborating, as Jackie and you were just saying, you know, we're really no longer working in silo. There's this collaboration across all of the different departments, whether it's with social, whether it's with our content creators, whether it's with marketing or editorial. We really are, you know, just this idea factory now, and how we come to those ideas is a real collaborative place.
What about for you, Kate? I mean, you're on a different side of the business. You're not on a brand, you're in agency sales. How's it different for you?
I was just going to say, yeah, similarly to Chris, we work so closely with so many external stakeholders and so many internal resources and partners as well. So a typical day for me could be, I'm over at 7 first thing, working on an integrated response with the Red team there, and Yahoo 7 are there as well. And then I might come back and meet with our content department about something else we're working on. I might meet with editorial about a brief we're working on, and then I might catch up with Joe around something we're executing socially for a client. So my day is so dynamic and diverse and varied and really fun. It's a really good place to be.
So your day, Joe, is just waiting for a call for
Pretty much. I can definitely relate to Anne-Marie when, like, you know, on a Monday you look at your diary and you think it looks very manageable, and then you end up like not spending a single minute at your desk for the whole day. So yeah, I agree, like our days are very, very varying, and I suppose as the industry evolves, our roles evolve too, and these days that happens quite rapidly and not at a kind of slow pace. So, you know, 1 week could even be so much different to the next, or 1 month to the next, so it's an exciting time.
It's good, that explains why I can never find any of them. Anne-Marie, you've been in the business a while now. It sounds like what you're doing now is really incredibly different to what you were doing, even when you started at Marie Claire, say, 4 years ago. How different is it? Who are you talking to now that you didn't before? How are you engaging? What are you producing now for clients that you didn't all those years ago?
Well, I think it has changed so much. We held the Prix de Marie Claire Awards last Tuesday night amongst that cyclonic wind that everyone got told to go home early. I think that always is a great testament to the Marie Claire brand that Jackie has built over 20 years, is that we had a 10% drop off on that evening. And I mean, imagine if one of your clients was holding, an event, you can imagine the drop off on that night, and everyone came, and Alex Perry was there saying, I don't go to many events, but I wait for the Prix de Marie Claire. I think I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I think it's changed so much. We were tweeting that night, we trended that night on Twitter. One of our main sponsors, Lexus, who I deal with, the response that we had to come, or the sponsorship that we created, as opposed to 2 years ago for the incumbent sponsor that was there 2 years ago, is completely different. So we had a social media schedule. We had the fashion team had a car from Lexus that they were using while preparing for the Prix de Marie Claire Awards. So I think the expectation that the clients have now, and what they need from our brands and what you need from us, has just risen so much. I think when I first started, my very first job, sort of 11 years ago, was as an intern at Marie Claire. So I was very happy to come back to Marie Claire many years later. But when I first started, I was sort of given a job like, okay, we're selling this special, get on the phone, go out and sell the page. And now I think I don't get any briefs that are like that anymore. It's always about challenging, how else do we touch that consumer? And we have so much information on her now. So whether that be organising an event where Jackie's meeting that girl to a big party that we had last week, it's changed so much. But we have so many more resources, so much more information now. And content, like you guys just want every brief, it's like content. And we have been the leaders in content. So I think that it's changed dramatically, and I think the expectation has grown as well from what we need.
Your brand, Chris, Men's Health, is like Marie Claire. It's got multiple touch points, some of which are hugely powerful. The social media channels, for argument's sake. Is that how it's different for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just going on what Anne-Marie was just saying, we're very much, no longer are brands really competing on brand performance alone. They're very much out there looking for us to create a brand experience that will be so memorable and will resonate so deeply with the consumer that the consumer will actually make it a part of their life. And so we can no longer do that just through magazines. It's through all of our touch points. Men's Health Man, for instance, as well. The success of Men's Health Man that we just ran this year, and the level of PR that we delivered, over $16 million in PR value, which is added value for the client. So I think that really goes to the brand metaphor that these guys are looking to align with when they use a magazine brand like any of our magazines, really.
So what do you guys, just to use Anne-Marie and Chris for this example, what do you need to know now that you didn't need to know before in order to be great at your job, in order to give these guys what they need? What is it that you need to know now that you haven't had to before?
Well, I'm still learning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a hard question to answer because it is just changing every. I had one team member who came back, after a year's maternity leave, and she's like, "Oh my God, what's this hashtag thing?" It's just changing so much that. You're kind of learning on the job. I think, and a lot of, what people say when they come to an organisation is, what training do I get? And it's like, well, we can set up training for you, but you're just learning on the job. And I think it's the same as how you're briefing out, your clients' work is you kind of have to just go with it, and you have to, rely a lot more on your sort of editorial and marketing teams to get those insights. I think with the social division as well and the content division that Pacific's just started, there's more things to learn there. So it's not really what we don't need to know more. It's just we have to just, I think, adapt and change really quickly now.
Yeah, I agree. Even from a social perspective, even working solely on social media, things literally change every single day. So for these guys, I think it's, like you said, it's not about what you know now versus then. It's about every single day continuing to, evolve and upskill the market. Yeah.
Gee, can you speak to that? I mean, being one of the biggest champions of social at Pacific, can you tell us a little bit about your social knowledge and I mean not knowledge, but I mean your social prowess hats that you...
I got you back to you.
Well, yeah, thanks for that. Well, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So, no, look, it is an interesting question, and it is one of the things that is actually really pertinent about our jobs today. You know, I actually come from an editorial background as well. I've been in the commercial role for just over a year now, and I know that even as I left editorial, you know, the expectations around what you needed to know, how you built your magazine, the way you engage with your audience, were really changing incredibly dramatically. I know what we expect now out of our teams, and what you guys expect is not a channel response. You know, these guys, we talk about cross-platform and 360 approaches, and not going back with a print response, but going back with an idea or an insight that will be best expressed across any or all platforms, but you know, most pointedly the right platforms. So it's not led by channel, and in that way, these guys have to be experts in social. You know, they have to be experts in digital. They have to be experts in creating rich content experiences that bring their brands and your brands to life. So I think, you know, much the same as the editorial guys talked about, this is absolutely multifaceted, but the one thing that hasn't changed is it is absolutely about driving results. And that's one thing that I know all of the magazine brand businesses pride themselves on, and that is what we do. And the great thing about data, as the guys talked about before, and as Jackie alluded to, it's not the enemy, it's the proof point. You know, and we have so much data these days. You know, we were talking the other day, and someone said to me that calling what we do today about print is like saying Apple is about MacBooks. You know, it's not. Apple produce iPads and iPods, and now they do watches as well. And they're all linked, and they're all more powerful because of the way that they're linked. Apple have even got their own marketplace, you know, where they sell, you know, the songs and the content that go on those. And so do we. We create content that we can on-sell, you know, to clients now. So there are really a lot of similarities, but you know, the things that you know today are different to the things that you're going to know tomorrow. But the one thing I do know is that across all of our businesses, you know, across Bauer, Newslife, and Pacific, the skill sets are broadening, the skill sets are changing, but the delivery of results hasn't. So, yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Jared, can I actually expand? You saying the results are actually amplifying, and that's what I'm not sure has got through to the wider audience, is that it's amplifying. Men's Health Man, they've been doing that for a couple of years. This year's $16 million in PR value. That, you know how many people we reached because of that? And the clients, every time Men's Health Man was mentioned, so was Lynx. Unilever had a complete, you know, halo effect of that. We would never have been able to get 16 million before just being a magazine, but the brand Men's Health Man was across everything. You couldn't miss it. You actually couldn't miss it in that time period, and that means whoever's associated with it gets that kind of exposure.
It's a good point. I can honestly say, and I think the teams would concur as well, you probably count on one hand the amount of print-only briefs that we get, you know, or that we have received over the past 12 months. You know, people still want to talk about cross-platform and integrated responses as if they're something special. They're not. They're every day. It's what we're doing every day.
I don't think it's even asked for as such anymore. It's just when you get briefed. We're an audience-based business now. We get briefed on a demographic, an objective, a target, a strategy. So how can our brands and our editorial amplify that message to our audience while leveraging our credibility and association with your brands?
I think even the point that our commercial director comes from an editorial background really, you know, shows how, like you said, it's not really ad sales anymore, it's about content. And you know, for me, from a social perspective, it's very important for the ad sales guys to actually know how our brands interact, like you were saying, Jackie, and really understand what makes them tick and what makes them engage, because that's going to end up getting you a better result for your client.
And the point becomes, as you said, it's actually about connections with people.
Yeah.
You know, and the platforms, the touch points that all of the brands have got actually just allow them more contact with those consumers, which is fantastic. Christy, a question for you. I mean, this is your first job out of uni, been with the company just on a year. Given what everybody said, is it different to what you expected? This isn't performance review, by the way.
Just have one of those. I basically came into this industry not knowing anything. You know, first I finished a degree in business. Never thought I'd end up doing advertising, but I've learnt so much, and the industry, as everyone has said, has changed so much. I remember reading a magazine, Girlfriend and Dolly were the things to have when you were in year 8 and year 7, and it was so special. Now, you know, these magazine titles have become brands, and they're on social. Everyone have them on Instagram, on Facebook, and we've got digital editions now, and it's just growing every day. Like, it's just changing. And I remember when I first had a brief for a magazine, it was print only, and there was no such thing as social. No one was even putting a social post out there, but you know, it's second nature now to have social on. Every brand wants to leverage the social media and how much influence it has on their audience. It's just crazy.
So we've talked a lot about change then, and change is, you know, often really good and positive, and sometimes it can be challenging. What's been the most exciting part of the change for you guys personally, and then I guess in terms of, and we've touched on it a bit, what it then offers for these guys and their clients?
Well, for me, it's definitely the access and the ability to now collaborate more and more. You really do. The great thing about this industry is really the people, like all of you here. It's such a joy to come to work each day and work with. There's my coordinator, Caitlin, in the front. Be able to work with such, you know, bright, you know, some of the youngest, best, and the brightest, and being able to then come and collaborate on a day-to-day basis with those people and come up with amazing ideas. I think it's just, you know, it really fires that creativity and makes you feel good at the end of each day. So for me, it's definitely the people and the collaboration.
For me, it's that real shift in perception around what we do and how we do it. When I started out 10 years ago as a coordinator on Recipes Plus magazine, it was literally picking up the phone, selling pages, giving out rates, bit of added value, and that was as far as we went. Now, every brief is a new opportunity to do something bigger and better and work with our brands in a different, newer way and tap into a new touch point that we haven't dealt with before, and it's exciting.
You work with so many different personalities within the industry as well, and it's so good to really tap onto all those people's opinions and their creative minds, and it really helps you like grow as well as a person, and it's just great to work with such creative people and learn.
So we've talked a lot about us and what we do and how that's changed. Let's talk about these guys for a second. How has the way you worked with them changed then during that period, or has it changed, or should it change? You know, how could it change so that they can get the best out of what you do and you can give them the best back? Emery?
I think it has changed a lot with how agencies and media work together. I think we've started to go further up the food chain, and I really implore you to kind of get us further up there as well before you've even started like segmenting where you're going to spend across your mediums, because, you know, as Jackie said, we can pull Jackie into a big brief for like a Nestle or a Unilever, for example, and some of the best ideas have actually come from creative brainstorms with Jackie Frank and the client, because we're so close to that consumer, and if you can get us further up there when you're sort of still starting to work on your strategy, I think that would be key. I think, you know, 10 years ago, yeah, we used to come into an agency, you'd give us a brief, we'd have, what, a week to respond, 2 weeks? Now we get like, yeah, like, we need your top line ideas by Friday sort of thing. So I think everyone is pressed for time. You guys are pressed for time from your clients. They want ideas tomorrow, and we have to deliver those. At the end of last year, I think everyone was so exhausted, and I just said, the ideas factory shut. Like, don't come near me. I've got no more ideas left to give, because you do actually feel like you're this ideas factory. But I think that's quite fun as well, and I think that that's something really unique to magazine brands. I think you probably brief us, and I'd like to hear your feedback on how you brief us compared to other mediums. You know, in terms of added value, I think we had a response for Cody last year, and I said, well, what's the bus driver doing? You know, like when you guys are briefing the out-of-home media. You know, our beauty editors are talking about these brands. They're out at Priceline talking about Rimmel, you know, or they're engaged with the audience so much, and I think it's really different. We can really add value to what your client's asking you for.
Kate, you've got an interesting perspective because you've been on client side, you've been in agency, and now you're on media side. Have you seen it change, or again, should it change, or how could it change for the better?
I think building upon what Anne-Marie was saying, if we could engage with agencies earlier in the play at planning stage, the possibilities around what we can create are endless. We've got so many resources now at Pacific. We've got a huge research department, we've got a huge content team, a huge social team, a massive digital team. The opportunities to collaborate are really endless, and really build a strong strategy off the back of that for when you're briefing out to print media, to social, to digital mediums across the board. If we could get involved and collaborate, I think, earlier and use our resources, I think that'd be of benefit to the client, the agency, and us as a publisher.
I think that's a good question for all of you here is do you guys see us as a resource that you can call on to help craft and shape your response? Is that something you guys feel like you're utilising us for at the moment? Because there are a lot of agencies that do it and get exceptional results, like on Men's Health Man, for instance. Do any of you guys feel like your agencies are making use of that?
Anyone with any thoughts on that? Or questions?
I think most brands these days want to act like publishers. Whenever I speak to agencies, they're always trying to educate their clients on their social content and stuff, and they're saying you need to be a publisher. Your brand needs to be a publisher, and I think who better to partner with than a publisher to help you do that, and to give you that content to use on social, on websites, on whatever channel you need to do. We've really become like a one-stop shop when it comes to being able to give your clients what they need on their channels as well as on ours.
It's a good point, and it's something that came up a little bit earlier, is that there's no need to think about us as print and in competition with social or digital, because we actually do all of them. Mm-hmm. And that's what we offer as part of a response. So those 360 responses that we talked about, that's just hygiene, that is what we do today. Where do you start? How do you start? How do you build it? Do you start with a channel? Are you starting with an idea? Or are you starting with how does it happen? It's a little bit like the creative process that we talked about before. Kat?
I think you start first and foremost with the audience. Who do you need to reach? What do you need to talk to them about? Before pulling it back, and then I'd typically sit with research first if I was responding to an integrated brief. Look at who we're trying to talk to first and foremost, because if we're not reaching those people, there's no point getting any further. Then I would sit with our strategy and content teams, and potentially brand at this stage, to work up a strategy that amplifies their brand messaging and also works in a way that we can leverage our editorial content that we build upon. Once we have a strategy, we would typically then meet with editorial, meet with marketing and say, okay, how can we amplify this strategy across all of our touch points? How can we get a retail activation off the ground? How can we sample? How can we support this editorially so that we can really go back with a really tight integrated concept while working through the agency throughout this creative process, checking in with them really regularly to make sure we are on the right track. This is what they're expecting, and this is what the client wants us to deliver a campaign that works best for both brands.
Anne-Marie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with what the process that Kate goes through. I think we think about the medium second, but the idea first. So we come up with that sort of overarching idea and strategy first, and then we kind of look at the medium afterwards, which has changed. We used to be like, okay, we'll think of print first, then we'll just bolt everything else on, because they need that as well. It's very different. The way that we think has changed, and I think with my role as well, it's also about working on what are the new properties that we can develop that that will be great for Kate's agency teams to work with you on. So 18 months ago we launched Marie Claire at Work, which is targeting professional affluent women through networking events and digital content and working with LinkedIn and then it's sort of how do we then partner with what partners do we go and then approach. So my sort of role is a little bit separate to what Kate does. Is yes, I work with Kate and the agency teams very closely, but I'm also charged with coming up with new initiatives and new properties to further develop the Marie Claire and InStyle brands.
only
Yeah.
responses, that we only actually utilize our social channels as opposed to print. Like, it might be a very short turnaround time, and you know, that's been a kind of an exciting aspect as well, being able to work on those briefs that have those short turnaround times. Like, you know, we can turn something around in a day now, whereas, you know, when it was just print, we weren't able to do that. So
We talked a lot about that before, and I think Jackie and the editorial guys touched on it, and that was content in context. So you don't just take what's in mag and put it on social or in other channels. You know, given that we're engagement mediums and have high engagement, that's what's actually important. We're seeing that a lot, and we're seeing amazing results in social. Why are magazine brands' social channels so powerful and such an important part of what we're doing today?
I think on social media, you know, magazines just fit so effortlessly. Like, we are publishers, like Jackie was saying, we're so up to date on the kind of content that we're providing. You know, we're using more like, you know, snippets of information of stuff that we might put in mags. We're tailoring content for the social channels, and Facebook love us. Like, they want their users to be able to engage with content that's relevant to them and that they, you know, enjoy and that's current and real time, and that's something that we can offer. So it's been exciting from that point of view as well, that, you know, our, like, you know, challenges that other brands might have with organic reach declining isn't a challenge that we've seen, because our fans are so engaged and our you know, our content is so like contextually relevant for them that our organic reach is really kind of growing, which is a very unique situation to be in these days.
Okay, so we're getting the 5-minute wind up. So I'm just going to ask one final question before we see if the guys have got any quick questions. You know, we've talked a lot about what we're doing today, how we don't know what we're going to be doing tomorrow, but we do know it's changing. Even still, what's the one most exciting development that you guys see moving forward? What's the one thing that's going to continue to make our brands and our content as engaging, important to consumers as it is today? Chris?
You're always going to get asked. I'm not sure there's just one. I think it's... I think
one.
You want one? Mental Health Man 2016. No, I think, well, I think what it definitely is innovation. I think you guys are challenging us every day to think outside the box and come up with new ways of doing things. And I think, you know, it's keeping us really honest. And I think that is probably the thing that will keep us innovating, will keep us developing and changing and growing. And finding all types of new territory to engage with our audience. So I think it's innovation, and I think it's you guys.
Joe, social media, we get it. Kate?
I was going to say our digital products. So without being too specific, some of the digital products that we're launching in the the coming maybe 6 to 12 months, I think it's going to be pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to being able to share that with our agencies and clients.
Yeah, Kate.
I think it's around the evolution of our business and the resources we have access to now. I'm constantly being pulled into training around neuro insights or different ways of researching or our upcoming digital launches, and it keeps our job so dynamic and fast moving, and it really does make you want to come to work.
Chris?
I think it's our digital space. I feel like a lot of people have a misconception that magazines are dying and print is dying, but magazines are now bigger brands. It's not just magazines now. Our brands have become a part of everything. So I think our digital space will be growing, and I think it can create a lot of new and interesting content for our audiences.
This is what it sounds like.